Hi, everyone. This is Caroline with the Expat Interviews, Thriving Abroad, where we give you an opportunity to meet people all over the globe that are moving to fascinating places and living their best life abroad. Today, I'm excited to bring you someone who I think that you're going to want to get to know, especially if you are considering a move to Mexico. And I wanted to bring her on so she can go over some of the processes that you would need if you in fact wanted to get your visa to come and live in this beautiful country. And I am happy to share with licenciada attorney Mildred Pallares. Thank you so much,
Thank you
attorney,
so much.
for being here with me. And so Mexico is very hot right now. Everybody wants to move. Well, it's one of the top 5 countries
Of
uh,
course.
that people want to move to. And I thought it would be nice if we could just talk about the visa process. It's not very hard, but it's not that easy either.
Of
So
course.
if we could just talk about, for example, let's say I am an American and I am interested in living full time in Mexico. What are the requirements? First of all, what are the requirements to get there? Do I need a visa?
Okay, firstly, we need to know, my first question always to all my clients is asking what they want to do in Mexico. That's the first thing, because if they work remotely, they can apply firstly. The first step is that they have to go to the closest Mexican consulate. In this case, for example, that you are American, that you go to the closer for you. Or could be for if it's another client in the case of the UK
Right,
or
right,
another countries, they can
right.
go there. But it's very important to know what they want to do, because not all the embassies and Mexican consulates uh, have the same requirements. They
Oh,
all are, yes, this point is very important to know, because there are a few that are not the option for economic solvency. For
okay.
example, this option that you can work remotely and you live legally in Mexico, but you cannot work. Is very important, because if you want to work and you have to a Mexican income, it's necessary a work permit. It means that a Mexican company hire you,
Right.
but this Mexican company needs to be needs to have a permit at the immigration office
Sure,
that
sure.
they can, it's another process. So this is
Right.
very important.
So for example, if somebody owns a bakery and they want me to go work in their bakery and they have no connection with immigration, they cannot hire me. They have to have a setup at the Mexican immigration in order to hire me legally.
Correct. It's necessary to know, firstly, what do you want to do? Where do you want to live? And for example, in the case of Mexican company hire you, where is located? Because the first step is that the immigration office will have to be everything, the Mexican company, everything in order. And
Right.
this company will go to submit your work permit at the local immigration office.
Right.
And then the foreign can go to the interview at any Mexican consulate, and then come to Mexico to complete the second part of the process. So it's very important to know what you want
What
to
you
do.
want. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm retired or I'm
Okay.
retiring, and I just want to go and live there. What is the process?
Okay. That's as explained your process is that you are in the USA. You have to go to the closest Mexican consulate, book an appointment, and see if you met the requirements. I mean, for example, if you have enough money to live in Mexico, depending if you want to apply for a temporary or permanent. And most of the times, if you have a property in Mexico, if you have the title deed, you can apply for the temporary residency, not the permanent, and depending the amount, because it's not that I purchased a land in Mexico and I can get the residency. No, needs to be the that an amount, and you have the title deed, and you are the owner of the property.
Right. Okay, yeah, there is I can ask you about that after, but as far as owning property, but one of the main things that a lot of people are confused about, if you could help us, is the difference between temporary residency and permanent residency. What is the difference?
Okay, the difference, the purpose to live in Mexico, the first step is the temporary is for 1 year if you apply at the Mexican consulate. And then the renewal you can do for 1, 2, or 3 years. After these 4 years, you can apply for another process to get a permanent residency. And the permanent, it's only one. That's all. You don't have to renew it.
Okay,
And
so you
most of the time they grant to the retired people. In the case of the USA.
Okay, so retirees then normally can get a permanent residency. So that means I have residency and I never have to apply again. I don't have to worry. I can live in Mexico as long as I want with the
Yes,
permanent.
and you can work in Mexico.
Ah, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
because the permanent is the equivalent of the INE. The
Okay.
Mexican,
A voting,
vote,
is it like a
of course.
voting card, right? Your
Yes,
INE
but you
is
cannot vote. These are
right,
equivalent.
That's what they,
But-
right, yeah. So, okay, so if, for example, if I'm a retiree and I apply at the consulate and I get a permanent residency, I can also work part-time if I want to. If someone wanted to hire me working in a restaurant or anywhere, I'm allowed to work.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Because it's a
okay.
permanent.
Okay, okay, and I get all the benefits of residency, whatever those benefits are. I
Yes.
have those benefits. Okay, now just to clarify, on a temporary, you said after 3 years of being on a temporary visa, I can apply for permanent visa. So I have to be in Mexico for 4 years?
Okay, I will explain you. Yes, and not that you have to be full-time in Mexico, but the residency, when we do this process of economic solvency, the first year is 1 year, and then you can renew for 1, 2, or 3 years. My advice is if you can do for 3 years, do it. And you don't have to stay full-time in Mexico, but obviously, if you want to the permanent residency, my advice is that you be most of the time in Mexico. Because if you want to apply in the future for the naturalization process, they have to see how long you was in Mexico. The laws are constantly changing, but by now it's very important to know how long you was in Mexico.
Okay, so if I want to in the future become a Mexican citizen, which we are eligible to after how many years? 5 years, 4 years?
Depending how did you apply and your nationality. For example, in the case of the people of Latin Americans, 2 years being temporary residents, they can apply.
Okay.
Because they are fluent in Spanish, of course.
Okay, okay.
But that's the difference, because it's not like, it's like going to the doctor. We need to check each specifically all the foreign, how is the profile, you know?
Sure, sure. Okay, so you're saying even if you're American and let's say you're a fluent Spanish speaker, after 2 years, you can,
No.
or you have to still wait the
Yes.
period.
Depending
Okay.
the nationality. The people from Latin America, yes.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yes.
so another confusing thing that I would love if you could help us with is consulates. A lot of people say, oh, well, I live in Chicago and but there's no appointments in Chicago. Can I go to California or can I go to New York to a Mexican consulate there?
That's another thing. In the case of the USA, there are consulates that are very strict, and there are others that doesn't matter. In the case of California, I know they are very strict, and in the case, for example, Florida, they don't care if you was living in Mexico or because, for example, I have many clients that they are not Americans, but they live in another countries. They cannot travel to their
their country.
embassy, yeah,
Right,
to their
right,
country.
right.
So it's easier to go into an appointment to the USA.
Sure.
Now, for example, to COVID, many Canadians went to the USA because
Yep.
they cannot go to Canada,
Sure,
right?
sure.
So
sure.
depending which consulate, that's the reason that we need to know if where they can go, no? And depending the appointments now, the COVID, it's complicated. The consulates, they are not giving they're giving few appointments. So it's something that we have to check 1 or 2 months before that you want to go to the appointment.
So you have to kind of know in advance where you're going, what time, and then try to get an appointment to go there. It's only
Yes,
by
I will explain
appointment.
you. Yes, I will explain you. The consulates give most importance to the people that are applying for a work permit.
Oh, they give
Then,
preference?
yes, 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 because I had clients that, it's for work permit, it's necessary. Now do COVID, you know, because they say some consulates, not at all. It's not, you are going for economic solvency, you can wait. It's not an urgency.
Oh,
But this is happening now to COVID. Everything we know with COVID, everything is constantly changing.
wow, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting to know. So it's easier to get a work permit now than it is to get if you just want to
To get an
retire.
appointment at the Mexican consulates
Okay.
with a work permit, yes.
Yeah, okay. That's
Yes.
good to know. Okay, so depending on, and you're saying each state has different requirements. So maybe Chicago says I need $1 a month, but Florida says I need $500 a month, right? So
Yes.
it just depends. Okay. And once I've
It's
done
like
that,
a fixed amount by law,
yeah.
but the truth is that it's not the same in all the consulates. So that's the reason I prefer always to send the specific information and updated information of the consulate.
Do you have any tips for anyone that is when you do go to the consulate? I mean, are there certain things that you have to be, I don't know, it's like you're going for a job interview, right? And you're very nervous. And are there some things that maybe, you know, the person that's looking at your paperwork will say, I don't like that you said this, or you wore a red dress and maybe you should wear a black dress, or you put your hair in a ponytail and maybe you should like, I mean, are there any things that really would make the counselor say, no, I don't want you to go to Mexico? Or is that such a thing? A lot of people have asked me that, you know, are there things that maybe I should say, or maybe I shouldn't say, or should I do? Does it matter?
Depending which kind of visa they are applying for. In this case of economic solvency, I always say it's very important that you say that you only want to live in Mexico, that you will not be working, that you will not put a business, because that's another kind of visa. You know, that's very, very important. And always, of course, they have to say that they will be more than 6 months in Mexico, because that happens sometimes that, no, I'm only 1 week, but you want a residency to live in Mexico
for 1 week.
Why do you want a residency if you only come in for a week? You can go as a tourist, right? So my advice is that always say, even if the process are really fast, in many parts of Mexico now with the new process, the new system and immigration now, not in all Mexico, but in many parts of Mexico, the process is really fast. So always I say to my clients, maybe if you come to Mexico City, it takes 2-3 working days to get the residency. You cannot say that at the Mexican consulate. You have to say, I'll be living there forever or something like that. Or I have no idea. It's not that you have to lie to the consulate, of course, but it's a residency to live in Mexico. That's we have to make sure, because I understand that, but I will not be there full time. It's not necessary that you will be in Mexico full time, but my advice is most of the time, yes.
Okay, right, because it makes sense. Why do you want to have residency if you're not going to live here? That makes sense. Okay, so now the clients that connect with you will connect with you before they start the process or once they have gotten their approval, because it's a two-step process, right?
Of course. Most of the times, they contact me in the beginning, and I give all the advice in the beginning to make sure that everything is okay. And this for the second part of the process. Most of the time they contact me in the beginning, and sometimes in the second part. So depending of the client, but I always help in any part of the process.
Okay, that's good. And especially for people that don't speak the language, it is advisable to have someone like yourself to help them, because I know from living in Latin America that it's very complicated. And sometimes even myself, and I speak perfect Spanish, sometimes I'm confused. I don't understand what they're saying. So it's really important. When I say I don't understand the process. The language is one thing, but the process sometimes is so complicated. You don't understand, like, if you put a T and you were supposed to put an L, you can't scratch it out. You have to start all over again. I've been through the process, so it's frustrating. So it's important. I want to tell everyone that it's really advisable to have a lawyer, have someone that can walk you through the process and knows, so you don't make mistakes and you don't have to go over and over and over and over again, because
I know.
it's so frustrating. A couple of other quick things that I wanted to ask you about the process. What is there something that, for example, I know with every country, are there things maybe that the Mexican government would not allow me to come, like if I had maybe a criminal record or something like that, or if I have bad credit? Does that make a difference to the government when they're looking at my application?
No. For example, I had clients that are worried about I have criminal records in my country, but it was a while. So maybe they are worried, but I cannot guarantee of all.
Right,
But
of
the clients
course.
that I have, no problem, because the Mexican consulate grants you the visa.
They're the ones that actually give you the visa,
Yes,
right?
maybe could be the immigration officer when you enter into Mexico, that they ask you questions, or maybe that could happen, but it's not something that I can say no, they cannot enter to the country because they have a visa,
Okay,
So
okay.
for example, in the case of Mexico City at the airport, I had many clients with this kind of visa by economic solvency. The immigration officers sometimes don't know what is that, because they don't know. They always think it's a work permit or family unit or something like that. And I had clients that was waiting like 1 hour because the officers have no idea what is that.
Yeah,
And for
right, right.
example, one was a American but perfect Spanish. The another one doesn't speak Spanish, so these things could happen, of course.
Yeah, I know that it is because immigration at the airports aren't necessarily the same as the immigration that work
No.
in the offices. So they have different, yeah, I understand that. One of the last things, like if I was deported, like, there's a lot of Americans and other foreigners, not just Americans. I don't want to say only Americans. There are many foreigners that stay longer on their tourist visas. What if I'm in Mexico and I'm in Acapulco or I'm in Playa del Carmen and I love this country? I don't want to leave. I'm on a tourist visa and it's now 8 months. I've already passed my time, but I want to stay here and I just don't want to go back to my country. Are there things that you as an attorney can do to help me stay legally?
Okay, for example, now it's a program, the regularization program, but this is constantly changing. And with this program, you cannot leave the country. I mean, we have no idea how long it will take, and everything is constantly changing. For example, in the case of Playa del Carmen, the program was able to, I'm a tourist and my visa is expired and I can apply. But the rules changed last week. You cannot do.
Now you
So
can't do it.
no, I think because many people was doing there. And for
Yeah.
example, there another immigration offices, I knew that in Puerto Vallarta, Nuevo Vallarta,
Yeah.
needs to be before December 2019.
Yeah.
And we need to know where they can apply. We need to know if the laws was changing or still the same. So I cannot guarantee and say no, we can do it. My advice is depending if, for example, if you have a Mexican son, you don't have to leave the country. If you are married to Mexican, you cannot leave the country, or permanent or temporary resident, you cannot leave the country. So you can do the process here in Mexico. You cannot, it's not necessary that you
Okay,
leave
so
Mexico.
once I have my residency, if I want to renew, you're saying I don't need to leave to do that.
No.
I can stay.
Yes.
Okay, that's helpful, because I think a lot of people don't want to have to pay, depending on where they live, plane tickets to go back to their country of origin.
Yes, of course. The thing here is that, for example, in the case of the United States, for example, the reason that you have to go to the Mexican consulate to the appointment is because you don't live here.
Technically, right.
Technically.
Right.
That's the reason. That's the reason. And then
yeah,
when you're in Mexico, you can stay here, but you have to do your renewals on time.
Right. And I'm glad you said that, because that is always confusing to a lot of people also. Like, why do I have to leave Mexico to get a visa to come back again? And that's very interesting, because you're right. You're here on a tourist visa. You're not a resident. You're a tourist. You're a tourist. So you must leave and come back as that makes a lot of sense. Well, I think that the most urgent questions and the most common questions you have pretty much answered. Anything other than that, I feel like people should contact you directly to get more information. But I know that a lot of people are interested in finding out more about Mexican residency. And, there's so much information on the internet, and people are talking in Facebook groups, and, just because I did it this way doesn't mean that you do it that way. And you as an attorney probably know other ways that I can do it that maybe those people in the Facebook group don't know about, so it's always better. And a lot of people say, oh, but you have to pay, but that's how it is. You get what you pay for. And if you want it to be smooth and not have any problems, then, that's I guess what we have to do.
Yes, I think my advice is always hire someone local that helps you. And because you don't have, we read the information and we have an idea, but we don't know exactly what's happening,
Sure.
Because, for example, I could give you another example that in the USA, many of the people on the paperwork, they only put an A or B on the second name or something like that. If it's different than the birth certificate, for Mexican law, it's another person.
Yeah, just one little, yeah. And I
for
also
one letter, for one number, there's another person for Mexican law. And I know it's confusing, but that's the law in Mexico, and I think in other countries as well. But in Mexico,
I think it is that way too. I know in Mexico, my signature, for example, in my passport, I just use my middle initial. I didn't write out my name full. So one time I signed a document and I didn't put my middle initial. I just put my first and my last name, and they said, no, you have to sign it the way it is in your passport. If you just have, your middle initial, you have to sign it that way. That's not the correct signature. So that's really interesting that you say that. They're very, that's why it's very important to have someone to help you, especially if you don't speak Spanish. It's not cool. It is not cool to be caught up with that craziness. So how, attorney, how can we get a hold of you? How can we reach you if we're looking for more information? We need help. We need help with our visa. How can you help us? How can we reach you?
With all the process in the beginning until the end, until you receive your cards. But it's very important to know what you want to, as I mentioned it, it's important to know what you want to do in Mexico. Because if you want to put a business, if you want to marry, if you want to, I don't know, there are many options. If you want to study, depending.
Sure, sure. And if I want to find a nice, handsome Mexicano to get married to, you can help me with that
Yes,
process too.
of course, of course.
Of course, of course. So I'm going to leave it below in the video, your contact information, but if you could just
Okay.
tell us, where is your office located? Where are you?
Okay, I'm in Mexico City, located. This is the head office, but I have legal services in Puerto Vallarta, Riviera Nayarit, and Riviera Maya as well. Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Tulum. I'm working with another attorneys there as well.
Okay,
And in
good.
Cuernavaca is not far, so we have legal services there as well.
And you're close to Merida, so if people want that are in the Merida area, they can go to the Riviera Maya
Yes,
offices
or
too.
I could check if we can start with Merida. I was working with someone else before. I was living many years in the Riviera Maya. I just moved to Mexico City in December or something like
Okay,
that.
okay.
Yes, so I'm half of there. So I know many people there, so we can check the option in Merida as well. No worries.
Great, great. Well, thank you
Yes.
so much. I really appreciate you taking the time out to clear up some of the questions. And
Thank you so
and I
much.
and I know that people will have more questions and want to reach out to you. So we will leave all of your information below so they can contact you and get their visa to come to Mexico. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
attorney.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.